Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Beltane full moon broadcast today, this magnificent day, the 1st of May. And welcome to my lovely garden. I'm really blessed to, I've recently moved to this lovely place in Glastonbury. It's a gorgeous garden. And I've had the most luscious, wonderful day. Glastonbury does these special Wheel of the Year days so well. And it's such a privilege and a joy to live in a place like Glastonbury, the heart of Avalon of the heart. And we've had wonderful Beltane May Day celebrations today to bring in the May, to welcome in the fecundity and fertility of the season, the beginning of summer, the initiation into this half of the year where the light comes back and it fills our body and our being and our soul with the light, nature's light, nature's gift. And here we are in the Taurus season. Typically, Beltane represents the midpoint of Taurus, the cross quarter of the year. Technically, that would be the 5th of May, but the tradition is to celebrate it today on the 1st of May. And it remembers that old Wheel of the Year, eightfold division of the year. And this is the time of the year when the light is increasing at an increasing rate. And there is more light, of course, more light than dark in the year. It's a unique time of year, and it's the season of Taurus that embodies that goodness, that gift. Taurus is that gift that keeps on giving, the gift that you didn't have to work for, that nature just presents us with as the blossom, the beautiful blossom, sweet smelling. We didn't have to work the land. We didn't have to cultivate anything. It just arises. And it reminds us of nature's blessing, of nature's gift. And I'll say more about that in a moment, but I just want to then, with this special day, on this special day today, we have a special event, of course, a full moon. The Scorpio full moon always occurs during the Taurus season, but it happens this year to coincide with Beltane as we celebrate it traditionally on the 1st of May. It's a rare occurrence. You think about it, it can only really happen like once out of every 29 or 30 days. So every 29 or 30 years, I should say. So it's a special and quite rare event for these two moments to coincide. So I want to say a little bit about how we might meet this full moon within the spirit of Beltane, and how we might meet this special Beltane energy within the polarity dynamic that a full moon creates. The thing with a full moon is it presents a tension, an opposition. We're in the Taurus season, which celebrates all that is good, fertile, abundant, all all the things that we have to be grateful for, all the things that we can appreciate about the light, about life, about the richness, the soil, the food, everything that is naturally presented to us through this, our beautiful Pachamama, Mother Earth, Gaia. And then we have the polarity of the moon in Scorpio. And Scorpio tends and directs us to look at what is hidden, at what doesn't grow through the light of the sun, through the light of that incredible gift of nature, Demeter's gift, the gift of the earth, the bounty. Scorpio, which is a sign which lives in the autumn time, when the darkness comes in and the darkness takes us inward and into the soil through the composting of the rot of all that was green and verdant. Scorpio remembers that. And so at a Scorpio full moon, we can't just become complacent in the gift, in enjoying the gift of life. In the Buddhist tradition, this is the festival of Wesak, the Buddha's birthday, the celebration of Gautama Buddha's birth. He is traditionally born with the sun in Taurus, born at a full moon in Scorpio, with the moon in Scorpio. And there's a great teaching in the Buddha's story, isn't there? Because he's born into this wonderful opulence and wealth. He's born as a prince. And within the walls of the palace, he doesn't have to face the other side of life, the poverty, the hunger, the suffering. In fact, he's actively shielded from it by his royal parents, who go to every length to ensure that he doesn't have to see that, so that he can just live fully in the abundance of life and not have to face that. And then one day, circumstances arise that expose him to what lies outside of the palace. He sees a beggar on the street, suffering in poverty, and it shatters something of his experience, which, because in his experience, everything is good. Everyone is fed and happy and joyous, but there's something that he sees there that compels him to leave the opulence of the palace. And so he goes, against all the wishes of his family, and he explores that path. He comes to know suffering. He encounters suffering in that sense. He subjects himself in the end to living on a grain of rice a day, sitting under the tree, seeking enlightenment. No longer, totally unable to avoid facing this. And so he comes to know the other side. Because for all that grows and is abundant, there is the shadow where we have to call up resources where that's not just given to us. And Scorpio remembers that, and it keeps us real. Scorpio keeps us real. It keeps us true. It keeps us aligned to our truth, because it's like don't get too comfortable. Don't get too used to this. Don't take anything for granted. Because if you take it for granted, we'll show you what will happen, because you'll become too in that comfort. You will lose touch with reality. And the reality, of course, that Scorpio knows only too well is that true abundance only arises when we are fully in line with the cycles of life, the cycles of birth, growth, fulfillment, but also decay, death, and the journey of regeneration, which happens under the ground, in the darkness. And only through that process do we return again into the light. And this is the beauty, isn't it? Here we are on a key day in the wheel of the year, a bounteous, beautiful celebration day. But it's only one moment within the eightfold cycle of the year. And so this Scorpio full moon happening at Beltane goes, remember, in 6 months' time, it'll be Samhain, and you'll have to face your own darkness. You'll have to face all the things that you've buried, that you didn't want to look at, that you didn't want to face. So it keeps us true. It keeps us real. And when and if we can hold that polarity, if we can hold that tension between growth and decay, between the burgeoning beauty and bounteousness of life and the inevitable demise into our death, then that is true abundance. Abundance is not the same as perpetual growth. Perpetual growth is not abundance. Our culture, our economic systems, our modern way of life brainwashes us with this idea that we have to live with this perpetual growth. And it's utterly unsustainable. It cannot sustain life. It can only lead to utter devastation because it becomes ever more narrow. More and more people suffer because we're trying to meet economic targets, expectations that are constantly about growth. The housing market cannot just keep on growing forever. We can't just expect everything to be positive and to get better and better and better. We have to live with the truth. And only by living with the truth, which Scorpio attends to us. Don't get complacent. Don't get too comfortable with this. And when we can hold both of those together, then we can truly celebrate. Then we can throw the biggest party because we can be with death and live with death as we live with life, and realize that actually death and life aren't opposed. We can recognize that death is just a doorway, a portal within the greater cycle of life. I always think that it's healthier in a way to look at the polarity between birth and death than life and death, because life is the greater cycle. Life incorporates death within it. Within the great cycle of life, there's a portal of birth where we come into the world, and there's a portal of death where we leave the world. But then there's this process within which we regenerate, just like all that is verdant. We are like the plants and the trees. We come again. We are reborn. We are reborn again through the portal of birth. And then we grow and we flourish. And then our gifts must be honed and harvested. And then our heart must be weighed in the balance so that we can live lightly enough in the end of our life that we can then pass through that portal of death without holding on to all the baggage. And we can hold on to the baggage by being too attached to our material life, our material personality, who we think we are. This image that we want to project onto others, this idea of ourselves, which is actually an attachment to, and it can be a very fragile attachment to, an egoic identity that's like actually often founded in a lack of self-worth, a lack of true value. Taurus is where we learn to value ourselves, where we learn to recognize our own worth. And one of the deep wounds that Taurus carries is this wound around not feeling good enough, not feeling like we have enough, feeling there's not enough, which fuels this myth, this toxic myth that more is better. There's not enough, so I need more. There's not enough, so I need more. I'm not enough, so I need to be more. I don't have enough, so I need to have more. We're caught in this sort of vicious circle type of polarity, when really the gift of Taurian medicine is to drop into the experience of enough, to experience enough, and then to relax into that. I have enough. I am enough. There is enough. And that's an art. It's a way of living. It's an attitude we can adopt toward our lives, toward the world. It can take a long time to reach this place, but we reach it by holding the tension with this polarity with Scorpio. The real medicine of Taurus, in fact, the real medicine of any sign of the zodiac, comes when we can really integrate its opposite. and come to know the opposite. Until we can fully embrace the energy of Scorpio, we can't fully embrace the energy of Taurus. They are two sides of the same coin, two ends of this axis. It's sometimes called the axis of possession. The axis is because we can become possessed by the things that we have. In the same way that we can become possessed in Scorpio by our inner world, by our fears, by our psychological complexes, by the phantoms and the specters that kind of possess us psychically and emotionally. So we become possessed materially in Taurus, in the shadow of Taurus, and we become possessed psychically and emotionally in Scorpio. And each must turn to the other. Each must look to the other for balance in order for a third force to be born out of that axis. And that third force, I believe, is true abundance. The Taurus-Scorpio axis, which is what we're with today on the full moon, which is the Taurus sun, the Scorpio moon. The true gift, the third way that is born out of that axis is the true gift of abundance, which I would say is the gift of being able to accept the gift that we're given, knowing that we can only enjoy it while it's there. We can only experience the pleasure of it and the benefit of it while we have it. And part of us having it, an essential part of us having that gift or having that asset or having that house, that income or whatever it is, part of the gift of that is in our offering to give it away. When we can accept every gift, that within every gift is the invitation to give that away, then we live in true abundance. So this axis is really about it's really a lesson around attachment. How do we enjoy what we have? How do we recognize what we have while we have it and recognize that it's a gift, and in the gift is the offering? Because if we don't offer that gift, then it actually starts to become distorted within us. We put it in the bank, we store it away, we go, or if it's a talent as well, we can hoard and possess our own talents too, right? So we can think, well, I'm really good at that, but we kind of keep it to ourselves. We don't share it with the world. We can the first thing, of course, is to recognize when we have a gift or when we have an ability, because Taurus also is the storehouse of our abilities and our talents and our gifts. So if we can recognize, that's the first thing, is to recognize our gifts, because we often, if we're living in an impoverished sense of self-worth, of value, then we don't even recognize them. But once we recognize them, then there's kind of I don't want to call it a duty, but there's a sort of an invitation, a strong invitation for us then to offer that gift out as a service. And in the sense, we then keep it moving, because Taurus is also the area of money, right? What is money? When money flows like water, when it flows through our lives, rather than us hoarding it and expecting it just to grow in it of itself, when money is allowed to move and flow through a life, then it's beautiful, replenishing. It's like a form of love. Money can be a form of love. Even within our totally distorted and toxic money system, money can still be a form of love when it's given as a gratitude, a token of appreciation. But in that token of appreciation, we have to also give it away. This having of Taurus, this growth of the having, and then in Scorpio, we call it having and not having, gaining and losing. We gain in the light, we lose. But is it really losing, or is it actually loosing what we have, loosing our grip on what we have? It's not really losing it, is it? If we're just loosening our grip on it and letting it flow back into the everything, into the all, into the negative space. Taurus holds the positive space. The Taurus will be like, be positive, positive affirmations all the way. Beautiful. Your mantra, your gift, your gratitudes, all of that. It's beautiful medicine. But can we also dwell in the negative space, the dark space that Scorpio offers us? We can't only be positive. As much as everything in this season of Beltane is going, look, just celebrate. And we should celebrate with every single cell in our being today. We should celebrate life. And I've been out celebrating life today in all of its fullness, dancing around the maypole, being with my beautiful, beloved community, with my beloved in this beautiful place, this paradise that we live here in Avalon, with the light and the sun and everything, as you can just feel it now in this garden. To celebrate that, and at the same time, on this Scorpio full moon, to remember that polarity, that flip side on the other side of the year, Samhain, which is not just on the other side of the year, it's on the other side of every positive affirmation that we make. There's this shadow that we also need to tend to with everything that we take in. We take in the food and we love the food, but then we have to excrete the food, right? It comes through the body and the system, and then we have to deal with the shit. Scorpio rules the bowels. It's where that's part of the process. And if we're holding on to it, then we're going to get constipated. We're not going to be able to move it through our system, right? So how do we keep the whole thing moving? How do we, and if we can be mindful enough with the way that we take in food, rather than just greedily kind of stuffing it into our mouth, into our face, which often comes out of a lack of presence. Taurus gives us presence. Scorpio gives us deep knowledge and consequence. Scorpio is a lot about consequence. Taurus, Scorpio will say, if you're gonna overeat, if you're gonna overindulge, if you're gonna lose presence and just consume everything that life has, then there'll be a consequence to that. And that consequence will be psychological. It'll be your inner life that you have to struggle with in the consequence of that. And of course, it can also manifest in the body, as it does. But so we have to tend to our physical well-being. And that in Taurus is through pleasure. Taurus is ruled by Venus. It's all about pleasure. Scorpio is actually ruled by Mars traditionally, which is all about desire. So Scorpio carries the energy of desire. It's also in modern astrology ruled by Pluto, the lord of the underworld, which reminds us of this composting process where we have to go down, face our darkness deeply. But the Mars rulership, which is the polarity of Venus, is this desire, this passion. And in Scorpio, it's a passion to go deep, to know, to penetrate beneath the surface, to search out, to seek out inauthenticity and to call it out. It's a truth seeker. It's the Scorpios are the truth tellers, and they make themselves very unpopular in the process often. But it's essential that we have the truth tellers, and it's essential that we know that truth teller within us so that we can fully live in the abundance of life. There's an interesting aspect in today's chart. By the way, we're just entering right now. This is the full moon moment. Should have said this at the beginning. Full moon is right now, folks. It's 6:23, 6:24 now, UK time. This is the exact moment of the full moon. Let's just take a moment. Let's just take a moment now to be with the full moon energy, and let's just take a moment to just be with the polarity, to be with the tension. Sun and moon, perfectly poised on opposite sides of the earth, in opposite signs. How do we hold that tension within ourselves? Let's take a moment together. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Just honor that moment, special moment. They're very precious. These are moments of ceremony when there's a precise alignment in the heavens. I just want to say something about the chart for today. I did post it in my on my newsletter, which you will have come through this morning, so you can have a look on there to see the chart. And I've just highlighted in that chart a particular aspect pattern, which is present between the sun and the moon, which are in opposition, and the moon's aspects to Venus and Saturn. Venus and Saturn are actually in a perfect sextile, 60-degree aspect at 9 degrees of Gemini and Aries, respectively. Venus is at 9 degrees of Gemini. Saturn is at 9 degrees of Aries. And the moon is at 11 degrees of Scorpio. So they're within a 2-degree orb of what we call an inconjunct aspect, each of them. They're both making inconjuncts from their signs to the sign of Scorpio. It's also called a quincunx. It's a 150-degree orb. They're 5 signs apart. And they make a perfect sextile. Now, this aspect pattern is called a yod. It's also been called a finger of fate, and it points at the moon. So these 250-degree, if you can imagine, you've got 2 signs in sextile, 60 degrees apart, Venus in Gemini. Easier if I had the chart on the screen, wouldn't it? But I don't, so you have to imagine it. Making a sextile, and then they're both making these inconjunct aspects to this sort of finger that points at the moon. These are very interesting aspects, and they're a little bit uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable aspect pattern, but it's like the moon needs to integrate with Venus, even though Venus is coming from a very different place. Venus is in light, pollinating, fluttering, buzzing Gemini, where everything is up in the air. Everything is a little bit interesting and a little bit curious, and we're moving around. There's a flirtatious position for Venus, Gemini. And Saturn's in Aries, where it's my way or the highway. It's like I am the authority. Saturn in Aries, the buck stops with me. I'm responsible. That's the Saturn in Aries position. And then the moon is in Scorpio going, you need to know the truth. You need to go deep. Don't be hasty. Scorpio looks at Aries and goes, you're too hasty. You're too quick. You're too impulsive. Know the deep places. Looks at Gemini and similar, goes, you're too frivolous. You're too all over the place. You're buzzing around. Stay, go deeper, slow down, look within. That's what the moon is saying. So there's a discomfort between Scorpio and Gemini, between Scorpio and Aries. But there's also a longing. It's an aspect of longing. There can be misunderstandings. There often are misunderstandings between these signs. But there's this longing, this fascination to integrate this other energy. So when you've got 2 of them in a chart like this, forming a sextile on the other side, because Venus and Saturn are in a beautiful sextile relationship where they really kind of get each other. Aries and Gemini just get each other very well. So Venus and Saturn are like, there's an opportunity here to mature in our relationships. Saturn can help mature a relationship. It can help it to anchor in and to take form. But it needs to know this depth of Scorpio. So we need to be able to go deep into the Scorpio medicine, face the shadow, know the truth, which is a little bit edgy. But if we can stay with it and recognize it's not a direct opposition, it's not a tension like we've got in the Taurus Scorpio opposition. It requires us to surrender something. It requires us to go on a bit of a journey to discover it. And it's all pointing at the moon. There's everything pointing at the moon. Can we go deep enough? Can we know the deepest of our soul? Can we go deep enough in order to deeply heal all that needs to be healed? And can we do that in the season of bounty and gratitude and appreciation. There's a beautiful expression, a phrase that I quote all the time, and it's in my book, Your Zodiac Soul, in the Taurus chapter. It's this idea that the author Lynn Twist introduced me to in her wonderful book, The Soul of Money. And it's this idea that what you appreciate appreciates. When you bring your appreciation, your gratitude to that which you recognize and can acknowledge in your own life, that which you bring appreciation to actually grows. I would say it's the principle of natural growth. It comes through blessing, through gratitude, through honoring, through prayer. And what is a prayer? We often think in our modern thinking, we think, a prayer is when you wish for something to be better. I pray that this situation gets better. That's more of a petition, I think, than a prayer. I would say, and certainly the indigenous idea of prayer is that a prayer is a gratitude. You're saying thank you. You're not saying, please make it better. Please change the situation so that it's not so terrible. You're actually just saying thank you for what I have. Thank you for the way things are. So this ability to accept, to allow in, and for us to drop in to that place of natural appreciation, that's the most beautiful medicine there is. And we become more articulate and more able to do this when we can hold this Taurus Scorpio tension. So let's see this Scorpio full moon as a gift that can raise our awareness, that can enhance our perception, that can allow us that can stretch us to know ourselves in a deeper way. Wow. That feels right. That feels true. Yeah. Well, I'm off to celebrate. Celebrations continue here right into the evening in Glastonbury. We know how to celebrate Beltane, and we'll be doing that in style this evening with music and dancing and good food and good company. And I hope you have your own way of celebrating today wherever you are in the world, whatever you might be doing, however you might be feeling, and even if you're just with yourself, I hope you can find a moment to just connect in with the gratitude. What are you grateful for? And can you even be grateful for those things that cause you, that might cause you to suffer or might have caused you to suffer? Sometimes the real transformation comes when we can appreciate those things that actually make our lives seemingly more difficult. But they're great, great teachers, right? And they can lead us somewhere else. It's not the end of the story. We can transform. Scorpio brings transformation ultimately when we're willing to embrace that, to face the shadow. Thank you for listening. Those of you who are here, I can see a few of you on the live chat. Thank you, Andrea there for your comment. Beautiful. And for those of you watching on the recording, I hope this is well met. I hope this is that you can take something from this medicine today and this special event. Full moon on Beltane. Doesn't get any better than that. Delicious. Much love, and all the very best. May we live in abundance, in true abundance. Thank you.